This is The Bad Listener with Danny Stroh.
Hey everyone, tonight we are doing Isaiah chapter 10. What sorrow awaits the unjust judges and those who issue unfair laws? They deprive the poor of justice and deny the rights of the needy among my people. They prey on widows and take advantage of orphans. So the main message here is that God brings justice, right? In an unjust world, whether he brings justice in this world or the next, in this life or the next, he is justice. He is the most just. Whereas the people in charge of, the politicians or whoever's in charge of their society could be unjust. And in this case, they're talking about people in power who are not taking care of the people they should be taking care of, probably thinking about themselves. The main takeaway here is taking care of the poor. This is brought up throughout the Old Testament, the New Testament. If we have the opportunity to help somebody who's in need, we should help them. This is the famous teaching by Jesus, Matthew 25:31-46. For I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger and you invited me into your home. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you cared for me. I was in prison and you visited me. And the king will say, I tell you the truth, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me. So this was something Jesus always talked about, taking care of the poor. And yeah, in today's world, if we have an opportunity to take care of somebody in need and to help them out, we should. We should be helping each other, and we shouldn't be passing that responsibility onto our government or our leaders, or just think that somebody else is going to take care of it, because that's just not the way it works. Verse 3. What will you do when I punish you, when I send disaster upon you from a distant land? To whom will you turn for help? Where will your treasures be safe? You will stumble along as prisoners or lie among the dead. But even then, the Lord's anger will not be satisfied. His fist is still poised to strike. What sorrow awaits Assyria, the rod of my anger? I use it as a club to express my anger. I am sending Assyria against a godless nation, against a people with whom I am angry. Assyria will plunder them, trampling them like dirt beneath its feet. But the king of Assyria will not understand that he is my tool. His mind does not work that way. His plan is simply to destroy, to cut down nation after nation. So basically, the Assyrians don't know that they are part of God's plan here, right? God is using them as a tool, right? Because God is always in control. The Assyrians think that they're conquering. Really, what God is doing is God is using the Assyrians to punish Israel, but they don't know that, and that's kind of what they're saying here is the Assyrians don't know that they're just being used as a tool, and eventually the Assyrians will be conquered too. This is supposed to kind of give us a little bit of, I guess, ease of mind or security that we can think of as God is always in control. When things are going bad, we lose hope in something, we can always remember that God is in control and he'll always produce the right outcome. So we don't have to worry about stuff like that. Gives us peace of mind. Verse 8, he will say, each of my princes will soon be a king. We destroyed Calno just as we did Carchemish. Hamath fell before us as Arpad did, and we destroyed Samaria just as we did Damascus. Yes, we have finished off many a kingdom whose gods were greater than those in Jerusalem and Samaria. So we will defeat Jerusalem and her gods just as we destroyed Samaria with her. After the Lord has used the king of Assyria to accomplish his purposes on Mount Zion and Jerusalem, he will turn against the king of Assyria and punish him, for he is proud and arrogant. He boasts, by my own powerful arm I have done this. With my own shrewd wisdom I planned it. I have broken down the defenses of nations and carried off the treasures. I have knocked down their kings like a bull. I have robbed the nests of riches and gathered up kingdoms as a farmer gathers eggs. No one can even flap a wing against me or utter a peep of protest. So here, this is what I was talking about, right? After the Lord has used the king of Assyria to accomplish his purpose on Mount Zion and Jerusalem, he will turn against the king of Assyria and punish him, right? Like, so I was saying that the Assyria will be conquered after this because God was just using them. And, they're saying here, for he is proud and arrogant, right? The object of pride always comes up as far as it's a lot of people's downfalls. We let pride get in the way of a lot of things. We like to take ownership of things that God has done, right? So just like they were saying here, he's being prideful. By my own powerful arm I have done this, right? Really, he hasn't done it though. God has done it, right? So that's where like pride will come into play in our lives, where we'll take credit for our accomplishments when really we should be giving glory to God, because we're just working for God, right? God is in control, working through us. And if we start taking credit and we start becoming proud and prideful of what we're doing, then we're kind of taking the glory away from God. So that's one of the ways you got to look at it, as far as every time that something good happens, remember that God is in control and he works through us and we serve him and his plan. Verse 15, but can the axe boast greater power than the person who uses it? Is the saw greater than the person who saws? Can a rod strike unless a hand moves it? Can a wooden cane walk by itself? So again, this is like here, our resources and talents aren't ours. They're God's, right? That's what they're trying to say here. Can the axe boast greater power than the person who uses it? So if we're the axe, we can't be greater than the person using it, which would be God, right? God is using us to fulfill his plan, right? He's the one who's in control. So, right, can a rod strike unless a hand moves it? They're talking about God using people to carry out his plan. Verse 16, therefore the Lord of heaven's armies, will send a plague among Assyria's proud troops, and a flaming fire will consume its glory. The Lord, the light of Israel, will be a fire. The Holy One will be a flame. He will devour the thorns and briars with fire, burning up the enemy in a single night. So this is now talking about Assyria's downfall, like I was saying, where Nineveh is actually destroyed. So this goes back to no one being able to escape God's judgment, right? No matter what happens, God is always in control and he is always just. So he will always create the just outcome that people will always get what they deserve, right? So that's kind of showing it here. They foreshadowed it before, about Assyria eventually having a downfall. And that's what they're mentioning here. He will devour the thorns and briars with fire, burning up the enemy in a single night. Verse 18. The Lord will consume Assyria's glory like a fire consumes a forest in a fruitful land. It will waste away like sick people in a plague. Of all that glorious forest, only a few trees will survive, so few that a child could count them. In that day, the remnant left in Israel, the survivors in the house of Jacob, will no longer depend on allies who seek to destroy them, but they will faithfully trust the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. A remnant will return. Yes, the remnant of Jacob will return to the mighty God. But though the people of Israel are as numerous as the sand of the seashore, only a remnant of them will return. The Lord has rightly decided to destroy his people. Yes, the Lord of heaven's armies, has already decided to destroy the entire land. So the remnant he's talking about are like those who remain faithful to God, right? It's going to be like a small percentage of people, I guess, at this point, but that's what they're referring to when they're saying the remnant of them will return, is the ones who are faithful to God are going to return, right? And again, we could emphasize faith here, right? How powerful faith is, and how faith is mentioned numerous times in almost every story about Jesus in the Gospels. Extremely powerful when it comes to God is your faith in God. Right. Verse 24. So this is what the Lord of heaven's armies says, O my people in Zion, do not be afraid of the Assyrians when they oppress you with rod and club, as the Egyptians did long ago. In a little while, my anger against you will end, and then my anger will rise up to destroy them. The Lord of heaven's armies will lash them with this whip, as he did when Gideon triumphed over the Midianites at the rock of Oreb, or when the Lord's staff was raised to drown the Egyptian army in the sea. In that day, the Lord will end the bondage of his people. He will break the yoke of slavery and lift it from their shoulders. Look, the Assyrians are now at Iath. They are passing through Migron and are storing their equipment at Michmash. They are crossing the path and are camping at Geba. Fear strikes the town of Ramah. All the people of Gibeah, the hometown of Saul, are running for their lives. Scream in terror, you people of Golan. Shout out a warning to Lasha, O poor Anathoth. There go the people of Madmenah, all fleeing. The citizens of Gebem are trying to hide. The enemy stops at Nob for the rest of the day. He shakes his fist at beautiful Mount Zion, the mountain of Jerusalem. But look, the Lord of heaven's armies will chop down the mighty tree of Assyria with great power. He will cut down the proud. That lofty tree will be brought down. He will cut down the forest trees with an axe. Lebanon will fall to the mighty one. So this kind of like summarizes up everything we talked about here, where God used them, and now God used the Assyrians, and now he will take the Assyrians down. They chop down the mighty tree of Assyria with great power. And they even go back to the forest trees with an axe. God using people as if a person would use an axe. We are just tools for God's plan. Yeah. So that's chapter 10. Thank you for listening, and good night.